I did everything myself. Nobody suspected anything. Tund is already depending on me. Ada was too blessed. It was time for her to step aside. The twins won't matter when I finally take my place. Hey there, pour a cup of tea, get comfy, and let your heart listen. The story's about to start. Welcome to Tales Vibe, where laughter and lessons flow together. If you love a good story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more tales every week. And please tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We'd love to know where our story family is tuning in from. Ada and Amaka were identical twins, the type people looked at twice because it was hard to tell who was who. From childhood, they moved like one body with two faces. Their mother used to say that God formed them with the same mold, but gave each one a different heart. It was true. Ada was the softer twin. She laughed easily, forgave quickly, and always saw the good in people. She liked peace and would rather keep quiet than argue. People were drawn to her in a natural way, and she treated everyone with the same warm attention. Amaka, on the other hand, loved quietly but felt everything deeply. She was the twin who watched more than she spoke. She was not unfriendly, just guarded. She liked things done neatly and liked to stay ahead. Even as children, she always wanted her work to be better than Ada's, her answers faster, her results sharper. She did not compete openly, but the feeling lived inside her like a small fire. Even with these differences, their bond was strong. They shared clothes, books, secrets, and dreams. Teachers often joked that if one twin was present, the other must be somewhere nearby. When they got older, friends envied their closeness. People admired how they defended each other and never let outsiders come between them. But inside Amaka's heart, admiration slowly mixed with something else. She always felt she had to work twice as hard to shine next to Ada. If someone complimented Ada, she tried not to feel bad, but she still wondered why it wasn't her. She would smile and say thank you on Ada's behalf. But later she would think about why Ada seemed to get everything with ease. Ada never noticed this. She moved with love and trust, believing the world was kind to everyone. She always defended Amaka, praised her, and told people that her sister was the smarter one. Amaka liked hearing it, but it didn't remove the small sting she felt whenever Ada succeeded without effort. Their parents treated them equally, but the reactions of people outside the family made the difference clearer. Ada got attention without trying. Amaka worked for hers. Over time, the gap in their hearts widened quietly, even though they still behaved like the closest pair anyone knew. When they gained admission into the same university, they became even more popular. Ada joined school groups because people invited her. Amaka joined because she wanted to stay close and make sure she was not left behind. Whenever Ada spoke at events, people clapped loudly. Whenever Amaka did well, it was expected, not celebrated. She learned to hide her feelings, but they never left. Yet despite the quiet comparison living inside Amaka, she loved Ada genuinely. She would defend her anywhere. Ada, too, trusted her completely. Their lives moved forward in unity, and no one around them knew that beneath the surface, one twin's heart carried love and envy at the same time. This was the foundation of their story. Two sisters joined by blood, but walking with different weights in their hearts. Ada and Amaka completed university the same year and were posted to Lagos for their NYSC. It was the first time they lived outside their family home for that long, but they settled in quickly. They rented a small room together, shared everything as usual, and continued their normal twin routine. Nothing had changed on the surface, yet something inside Amaka felt heavier with each passing month. Ada loved meeting new people. She made friends at her place of primary assignment with ease, greeting everyone, helping where she could, and leaving a warm impression behind her. Amaka worked hard at her own PPA but kept to herself. She didn't mind it. She knew who she was. She just didn't like how Ada attracted friends without even trying. One afternoon, Ada returned home excited. Amaka was on the bed, sorting her files, when Ada dropped her bag and sat beside her. "Amaka, you won't believe who I met today," Ada said, smiling. Amaka looked up. "Who?" "A guy named Tund. He came to our office to discuss a project. He's the son of that business mogul everyone talks about. He was so polite. He even asked for my number." Amaka forced a smile. "That's good." Ada continued talking, unaware of the tension forming in her sister's chest. She described how Tunda spoke, how he treated people with respect, and how he seemed genuinely interested in her work. Amaka nodded at the right moments, but inside she wondered why these things always found Ada first. Over the next few weeks, Ada and Tund grew closer. They spoke often, met during lunch breaks, and became comfortable around each other. Ada shared every detail with Amaka, not knowing how each new story quietly increased her sister's silent worry. Amaka tried to focus on her own life. She reminded herself that Ada was happy and deserved good things. But each time Ada returned from seeing Tund with that bright smile, something inside Amaka tightened. She wished she felt nothing, but she did. She wished she didn't compare, but she did. And she hated herself for it. One weekend, Tund invited both sisters to a small gathering. Amaka agreed to go, mostly to see him for herself. When they arrived, Tund greeted Ada warmly and turned to Amaka with respect. He treated her kindly, complimented her intelligence, and made her feel noticed. But even in that moment, she saw the way his eyes went back to Ada. The connection was clear, natural, and unforced. After the event, as they headed home, Amaka walked quietly. Ada talked on and on about how much fun she had and how thoughtful Tund was. Amaka listened without interrupting, holding everything inside as usual. But that night, while Ada slept peacefully, Amaka stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. She wasn't angry at Ada. She wasn't even angry at Tund. She was angry at the feeling of always being second, always watching Ada's life unfold smoothly while her own felt stuck in the same place. Still, she pushed the thoughts down. She told herself that love was love, and if Tund truly loved Ada, then she would accept it. But as their service year continued and Ada and Tund grew even closer, Amaka felt a small shift inside her heart, subtle, but strong enough to leave a mark. A mark that would later change everything. Ada and Tund's relationship grew stronger as NYSC came to an end. By the time their service year finished, everyone around them already knew they were serious. Tund visited often, called every day, and treated Ada like someone he wanted in his future. Ada shared each moment with Amaka, believing her twin was genuinely happy for her. Amaka tried to be supportive. She listened, smiled, and gave the right responses. But deep inside, the quiet sting from Chapter 2 had not faded. It had only settled deeper. She told herself it was normal to feel left behind, that Ada finding love didn't make her any less valuable. But the truth was harder to hide than she wanted to admit. One Saturday morning, Ada returned home with a small bag in her hand, her eyes shining. Amaka was brushing her hair when Ada walked in. "Amaka," Ada said softly. "Tund wants to see both of us this evening." "Both of us? Why?" Amaka asked. "He said it's important." The look on Ada's face already revealed the answer, even though she tried not to show it too quickly. Amaka felt her stomach tighten, but she nodded calmly. When evening came, they went to meet Tund. He was dressed simply, but something about him seemed more serious than usual. After a few minutes of small talk, he cleared his throat. "Ada," he said, holding her hand, "I can't imagine my life without you. You make everything better. I want to spend the rest of my life with you." He reached into his pocket and brought out a ring. "Please marry me." Ada covered her mouth in shock. Tears filled her eyes. She turned to Amaka, almost as if seeking her twin's blessing. "Amaka," she whispered. Amaka smiled, though it felt like something heavy was pressing on her chest. "Say yes, Ada," she said quietly. Ada turned back to Tund. "Yes. Of course yes." Tund slipped the ring on her finger. Ada cried out in excitement and hugged him immediately. Amaka clapped slowly, forcing her face into a happy expression. "Congratulations," she said. The moment was joyful, but inside her heart, something shifted sharply, something she didn't recognize until it settled. On their way home, Ada couldn't stop staring at the ring. She held Amaka's hand tightly. "I'm so happy," she said. "I can't wait for you to get married too. We will plan everything together." Amaka nodded. "I'm happy for you." But that night, when Ada fell asleep with her hand resting over the ring, Amaka lay awake again, just like she had in Chapter 2. Only this time, the feeling was not a small sting. It was a quiet ache that refused to fade. The next day, Ada told their parents. Everyone rejoiced. Calls came in. Messages poured in. Friends screamed with excitement. Tund's family welcomed Ada fully and openly. And with each new celebration, Amaka felt her smile grow tighter. She loved her twin deeply. But as Ada's joy grew brighter, Amaka's heart grew heavier. She didn't plan anything. She didn't think anything evil. But something new had entered her, a mixture of fear, envy, and the painful reminder that Ada always seemed to receive life's blessings first. It was a seed. Small, silent, and buried. But it had begun to grow. After the engagement, Ada's life moved quickly. Her phone never stopped ringing, and messages poured in from friends and relatives. Tun's family called almost every day to discuss plans and preparations. Everywhere Ada went, people noticed the ring and congratulated her. She was glowing with excitement. Amaka stood beside her through it all, smiling, nodding, giving suggestions where needed. Nobody could tell that anything inside her had changed. Even Ada believed her sister was the happiest person in the world for her. Tun's family took full responsibility for the wedding. They wanted it to be grand, and they insisted on providing everything. Ada was overwhelmed at first, but Tund reminded her that she deserved it. Amaka heard that statement and felt a familiar sting, the same one that had started growing since Chapter 3. As planning continued, Amaka became deeply involved. She attended meetings, handled lists, contacted vendors, and provided advice whenever asked. Everyone praised her. "Amma, you're such a supportive sister," people said. "She's lucky to have you. You're the real helper behind this wedding." Amaka smiled and nodded each time, accepting the praise quietly. In truth, she enjoyed hearing it. It made her feel needed, important, and noticed. For once, she wasn't standing behind Ada, she was standing beside her. Ada appreciated her efforts without holding back. She often hugged her and said, "Amaka, I don't know what I would do without you." Those words made Amaka feel warm and hurt at the same time. As the wedding day drew closer, Ada asked Amaka to be her maid of honor. Amaka accepted with a calm smile, even though deep inside, she felt a heavy mix of pride and pain. She wanted to be happy for Ada, but watching everything come together so perfectly for her twin made her heart feel tight. The night before the wedding, Ada was full of excitement. She sat beside Amaka, talking about her future with Tund, the home they would build, the family they hoped for, and the dreams they wanted to chase together. Amaka listened with a careful expression. She nodded, asked questions, and encouraged Ada to keep talking. But inside, the small seed planted earlier had started to feel more like a knot she couldn't untie. "I'm so grateful you're by my side," Ada whispered before going to bed. Amaka nodded. "I will always be here." But as soon as Ada fell asleep, Amaka sat alone, staring into space. She wondered why she wasn't the one wearing the ring. Why she wasn't the one being celebrated. Why Ada always seemed to receive things she only dreamed about. The next day, the wedding took place. Ada looked beautiful. Tund couldn't take his eyes off her. Families joined hands. Friends cheered. It was a joyful event, full of smiles, laughter, and blessings. Amaka moved through the crowd gracefully, helping Ada, adjusting her dress, fixing small things whenever needed. Everyone praised her again as the perfect sister. But beneath the polite smile she wore throughout the day, a quiet truth settled deeper into her heart. She had given Ada the happiest day of her life, but in doing so, she felt more forgotten than ever. And though she didn't know it yet, the feeling would follow her long after the wedding ended. After the wedding, Ada settled into married life with Tund. His family treated her well, and their home was peaceful. Within a few years, Ada gave birth to her twins, Ade and Lola. The children brought joy into the home, and Ada often told Amaka how grateful she was for the new phase of her life. Amaka visited often. At first, she kept her visits short, telling herself she needed time to accept how much her sister's life had changed. But Ada always begged her to stay longer, to sleep over, to help with the babies, to join their small family moments. Amaka loved her niece and nephew, but each visit reminded her of everything she didn't have. As time passed, Ada continued to grow in her career, while Tund remained supportive and stable. They were building a life Amaka admired deeply, but couldn't stop envying. She hid her feelings well. She never let Ada suspect anything. Anytime Ada shared good news, Amaka smiled, hugged her, and congratulated her. But inside, the same tightness she felt during the engagement and wedding never left. It sat quietly in her chest, waiting. 5 years into the marriage, Amaka's life felt stagnant. She was working, but not fulfilled. Her relationships never lasted. She lived alone and felt the silence too much. Sometimes she cried at night, wondering why life seemed to favor Ada at every turn. One afternoon, Ada called her as usual. But this time, Amaka answered with a shaky voice. "Amma, are you okay?" Ada asked immediately. "I'm fine," Amaka replied, but her tone betrayed her. "Amma, talk to me." Amaka took a breath. "I just feel tired. I feel like everyone is moving forward except me." Ada's heart melted instantly. "Oh, Amaka, why didn't you tell me? You should come and stay with us for a while. Please. I don't want you to be alone." No, it's okay. Amma, you are my twin. Come, even if it's for a short time. That evening, Ada told Tund about the conversation. Tund was not thrilled. Are you sure it's a good idea? He asked. She needs us, Ada said. She's my sister. All right, Tund agreed, though reluctantly. A week later, Amaka arrived with one small suitcase. Ada hugged her excitedly, and the twins, Ade and Lola, ran to greet her. Amaka bent down to hug them tightly. Their innocence softened something inside her, something that made her feel wanted again. From the moment she entered the house, Amaka began to settle in quickly. She helped with chores, played with the twins, and kept Ada company. To everyone else, she seemed like the perfect guest. But deep inside, the seed that had been quietly growing since Ada's engagement finally found space to stretch. For the first time, Amaka looked around the house and felt something she tried to push away. This life could have been mine. She didn't plan anything. Not yet. She wasn't looking for trouble. She just wanted to feel like she belonged somewhere. But as days passed, something new entered her thoughts, slowly, softly, but with purpose. She wasn't just a guest anymore. She was beginning to see the house differently. More personally. More possessively. And without realizing it, Ada had opened the door to something she wasn't prepared for. Amaka settled into Ada's home as if she had lived there for years. At first, it seemed harmless. She helped with chores, assisted the children with homework, and supported Ada whenever she felt overwhelmed. Ada was grateful, happy that her twin finally felt at peace. Tund, although unsure, tolerated the new arrangement for Ada's sake. But as the weeks passed, something subtle changed in the way Amaka behaved in the house. She paid attention to every corner, every drawer, every routine. She watched the way Ada mixed her tea, the way Tund liked his food, and how the twins shared tasks around the house. She wasn't obvious about it. She remained calm, soft-spoken, and helpful. But behind her careful smile, her mind was constantly comparing, longing, and quietly taking notes. Ada trusted her sister completely. So when she began feeling weak, she thought it was stress. She told Amaka first, not wanting to worry Tund. I don't understand, Ada said one morning. My body feels heavy. Amaka touched her forehead and spoke gently. You need rest. Let me handle things today. That became the beginning. Each time Ada complained of dizziness or tiredness, Amaka stepped in immediately, bringing food, preparing tea, offering to sort her medication. She did it so lovingly that Ada never questioned anything. But the more Amaka helped, the worse Ada became. At first, it was small things. Slight weakness. Headaches. Loss of appetite. Later, Ada began to spend long hours lying down, lacking energy to do even the simplest tasks. Tund became worried and invited doctors. Tests were run, medicines prescribed, adjustments made. Yet nothing improved. Every time a new treatment came in, Amaka found a way to be involved. I'll help you organize her drugs. Let me serve her food so she can eat well. I'll sit with her. You should go to work. Her devotion seemed perfect. Too perfect. The twins, Ade and Lola, were the first to sense something strange. Children usually notice things adults ignored. They observed how Amaka always insisted on being the one to handle Ada's meals. They noticed how she hovered around Ada's cup, how she reacted sharply whenever they tried to help. One day, Ade entered the kitchen quietly and saw Amaka mixing Ada's tea. He didn't understand what he saw, but something about the way she quickly hid the small container on the counter made him uneasy. When she turned around, he pretended to be looking for biscuits. She smiled at him, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Later that night, Ade whispered to Lola, Auntie Amaka is doing something. I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. Lola nodded. I've seen it too. They didn't know the words to use. They didn't know how to explain the fear they felt. But they knew their mother's sickness began after Amaka moved in. As Ada's health got worse, Amaka's hold on the household grew stronger. She positioned herself as the dependable one, cooking, organizing, managing schedules, and comforting Tund when he became overwhelmed. Don't worry, she always said. I'm here. She played the role so flawlessly that no one suspected anything. Not even Tund. But Ade and Lola continued to observe quietly. They wrote down small notes, recorded strange behaviors, and promised each other they would not stop watching. Little by little, Amaka's presence began to overshadow Ada's life. And behind her gentle voice and steady hands, a dangerous plan had already begun to unfold. One cup, one plate, one spoon at a time. Ada's sickness grew worse with each passing week. She could barely sit up without help. Doctors kept returning with the same answer. We can't find the cause. Medicines changed, diets changed, routines changed, but Ada's strength continued to drain away. Through it all, Amaka remained constantly by her side, calm and gentle, acting like the only person who understood what Ada needed. Then one quiet afternoon, when Tund had stepped out briefly and the twins were in their room, Ada's breathing became shallow. She reached for Amaka weakly. "Amma, don't leave the children." Amaka held her hand, her face calm. "Rest, Ada. I'm here." Those were Ada's last words. When Tund returned and saw her still body, he broke down immediately. He shook her gently, begging her to wake up. The twins ran out, confused by the noise, and when they saw their mother lying still, they burst into tears. Ade held her hand, crying loudly, while Lola clung to Tund's leg, shaking uncontrollably. Amaka stood slightly apart, her face set in a sad calmness. She cried softly, but not in the way Ada's family cried. Her tears were controlled, almost practiced. Neighbors came. Family members rushed in. Condolences filled the house. Everyone comforted Tund and thanked Amaka for standing by Ada till the end. "You tried, Amaka. You were her strength. A good sister will always be remembered." Amaka nodded humbly. "I did what I could." No one suspected anything else. The funeral was painful. Tund could not speak for long. The twins held each other throughout, too heartbroken to understand why their mother was gone. Amaka stayed close to them, wiping their tears and whispering words of comfort. People praised her again. After the burial, the house fell into silence. Tund walked around like someone carrying a heavy load. He barely spoke, barely slept. He stared into space most nights, holding Ada's photograph as if it could bring her back. Amaka took charge without being asked. She handled meals, organized the children's clothes, reminded Tund about work meetings, and made sure the house ran smoothly. She moved through the home like it was her duty to keep everything together. "Auntie Amaka, can I help?" Lola asked one day. "No, dear," Amaka replied quickly. "Go and rest." Ade and Lola watched her carefully. They remembered everything from Chapter 6. The way she touched their mother's food, the way she hovered around the medicine, the way she reacted whenever they came close. Their fear didn't vanish just because Ada was gone. Instead, it grew stronger. One evening, Ade whispered to Lola, "Mummy started getting sick when she came. And now she's acting like the house is hers." Lola nodded slowly. "Something is wrong." "I know it." But they had no proof. No adult would believe two children accusing their mother's twin. Amaka looked too perfect, too loving, too helpful. As weeks passed, Amaka's presence became more permanent. She spoke to staff with authority, arranged things her own way, and gently pushed aside anyone who tried to question her choices. Tund, lost in grief, leaned on her more with each passing day. To everyone else, Amaka was the caring sister who stepped in to save a broken family. But Ade and Lola knew better. Their mother's death had not been an accident in their eyes. They didn't know how to prove it yet, but they were determined to watch Amaka more closely. The truth had not died with Ada. It was waiting, quietly, in the hearts of her children. The days after Ada's burial felt long and heavy. Tund moved around the house like someone who had forgotten how life worked. He kept to himself, spoke only when needed, and spent most nights sitting in the living room with Ada's photo on his lap. The twins, Ade and Lola, tried to stay close to him, but even they could see he was lost. In that emotional gap, Amaka stepped forward. She didn't force anything. She simply positioned herself in small ways that seemed harmless at first. She became the one who woke the children for school, the one who decided meals, the one who reminded Tund about office work. She handled bills, collected deliveries, and arranged the house the way she thought was best. Whenever someone from Tund's family visited, she spoke calmly and confidently, showing them that she was helping Tund recover. "Tund is trying," she would say softly. "The children are coping. I'm just doing what I can." The visitors thanked her, relieved that someone was holding the family together. It didn't take long for people to start saying, "Amaka, God bless you. You're truly a sister. Ada would be proud of you." Each compliment settled comfortably in her mind. She accepted them with humble eyes, but inside, something else was growing, something stronger than it had ever been. Ade and Lola watched closely. They noticed how Amaka's room suddenly contained more clothes. How she gave instructions to the workers in a tone that wasn't temporary. How she entered their mother's old room without hesitation. One evening, Tund forgot an important document for work. Before he could panic, Amaka stepped in. "I already placed it in your briefcase," she said. Tund paused, surprised. "Oh, thank you. You don't need to worry," she replied gently. "I'll take care of things." Moments like this became common. Tund, weighed down by grief, slowly accepted her presence as necessary. He didn't realize how deeply she was weaving herself into their lives. Meanwhile, Ade and Lola grew more uncomfortable. They talked quietly at night, sitting on the floor of their room with a small notebook between them. Ade wrote, "She moved Mummy's picture in the parlor." Lola added, "She removed Auntie Beezy from cooking today." They documented every strange action. They didn't fully understand the danger, but they sensed that Amaka wasn't just helping. She was taking over. As the weeks turned into months, Amaka's influence became clear. Workers who were loyal to Ada mysteriously lost their jobs. New staff arrived, people who listened only to Amaka. The house felt different, even though nothing obvious had changed. Sometimes, Lola would ask a question and Amaka would answer in a tone that made her chest tighten. "Don't worry about things you don't understand," Amaka would say. But the twins did understand. They recognized that Amaka's voice now carried authority, not support. They recognized how she guided Tund's decisions without him noticing. One night, Ade walked into the living room and saw Tund and Amaka talking quietly. Amaka's hand rested softly on Tund's arm. Tund looked tired, but he didn't remove her hand. Ade's heart dropped. He ran back to Lola and whispered, "She's trying to replace Mum." Lola's eyes filled with tears. "We must keep writing everything. One day, someone will believe us." Amaka, unaware of the small resistance building in the children's heart, continued her quiet takeover. She had slipped comfortably into a role Ada once filled: wife, helper, comforter. And with Tund too broken to see clearly, Amaka's control grew stronger by the day. Ade and Lola continued keeping their secret notebook, adding every strange thing Amaka did. They were careful not to draw attention to themselves. Amaka treated them nicely in front of people, but when no one was watching, they could feel her coldness. She now spoke to them like they were an inconvenience standing in her way. As the months passed, Amaka's grip on the house became tighter. Tund leaned on her for almost everything: meals, schedules, decisions, even emotional support. He didn't notice how much control she had gained, and Amaka made sure he didn't think too deeply about anything. One evening, Tund came home exhausted. Amaka sat beside him on the sofa, speaking softly. "You don't have to carry everything alone," she said. "I'm here." Tund nodded slowly, not even realizing how easy it had become to depend on her voice. He didn't see that Ade and Lola were watching from the hallway, their tiny hands clenched. Later that night, Ade whispered to Lola, "She wants to take Mummy's place completely." Lola nodded. "We must find proof. Something adults cannot ignore." Their moment came unexpectedly. One Saturday afternoon, the house was unusually quiet. Tund had gone out for a meeting, and most of the staff were running errands. Amaka was in her room getting ready for another outing. Ade and Lola were in the living room, sorting through their school bags, when they noticed Amaka's phone on the side stool. Lola tapped Ade's arm. "Look." Ade's heart started beating faster. She never leaves her phone out. The phone screen was lit, meaning she had only left it for a moment. Lola quickly reached for it. "Ade, what if she comes back?" Lola whispered. "We have to be fast," Ade said. They opened the phone, surprised to see it wasn't locked. Lola tapped through the apps with shaking fingers until she opened the voice recorder. What they heard stopped them cold. It was Amaka's voice. "I did everything myself. Nobody suspected anything. Tund is already depending on me." Ada was too blessed. It was time for her to step aside. "The twins won't matter when I finally take my place." Ade covered his mouth. Lola froze, unable to breathe for a moment. The voice notes continued, Amaka practicing fake crying, pretending to console Tund, even laughing quietly about how people praised her. It was worse than anything the twins imagined. "We have to save it," Ade said urgently. Lola nodded, her hands still shaking. They sent the voice notes to Ade's small tablet, then erased the recent files list on the phone. Just as Lola dropped the phone back on the stool, they heard Amaka's slippers approaching. Both children scrambled to sit quietly, pretending to be drawing. Amaka walked past them without suspecting anything. That night, Ade and Lola hid under their blanket and listened again to the recordings. This time, the truth was clear. Amaka had done something terrible to their mother. They didn't know how she did it, but they finally had the kind of evidence adults could not push aside. Lola's voice trembled. Ade, what if Daddy doesn't believe us? He will, Ade said firmly. We just need the right moment. From that day on, the twins were no longer just grieving children. They had become witnesses, quiet, determined, and ready to fight for their mother's truth. And without knowing it, Amaka had given them the weapon that would one day break her entire plan. Ade and Lola held onto the voice notes like a lifeline. Every day after finding them, they talked quietly about what to do. They knew they needed the right moment, one that no adult could ignore or explain away. But moments like that did not come easily. Meanwhile, Amaka continued her slow takeover. She remained close to Tund, guiding him gently through his grief until he leaned on her completely. She cooked for him, arranged his appointments, and made sure the house never ran out of anything. Over time, the distance between them reduced, and Tund began seeing her as the only person who understood him. Then one evening, Tund called Ade and Lola to the living room. Amaka sat beside him, her hands folded neatly. I have something to tell you, Tund said, clearing his throat. I'm planning to marry your auntie Amaka. Ade felt something drop in his stomach. Lola grabbed his hand tightly. I know it may feel strange now, Tund continued, but she has been here for us. She has helped us through everything. Amaka smiled softly, playing her role perfectly. We will still love you both, she said. Nothing will change. But the twins knew everything had already changed. After that night, the wedding planning moved quickly. Amaka kept it small, inviting only people she could control. She didn't want too many eyes watching her. Tund's family tried to convince him to slow down, but he insisted he had found comfort again. The day of the wedding came faster than anyone expected. Ade and Lola woke up with one clear mission. They had secretly prepared everything the night before, copying the recordings to a secure folder and connecting Ade's small tablet to the house's central speaker system. They hid the tablet in a space behind a large flower vase where no one would think to look. By afternoon, guests began to arrive. The twins stayed quiet, staying close to each other as they watched everyone take their seats. Tund stood in front, adjusting his clothes nervously. Amaka came down the stairs in a simple ivory dress, smiling like someone who had already won. When she reached the last step, Ade gave Lola a small nod. It was time. The recordings began to play through the speakers, clear, loud, and undeniable. Ada was too blessed. It was time for her to step aside. I did everything myself. Nobody suspected anything. Tund is already depending on me. Soon everything will be mine. The room froze. Guests turned sharply. Tund stood still, confusion spreading across his face. Amaka's smile vanished instantly. She looked around, searching for the source of the sound, her breathing uneven. The next voice note played. The twins won't matter when I finally take my place. Gasps filled the hall. Several guests stepped back. Tund stared at Amaka as if seeing her for the first time since Ada died. Amma, he whispered. What is this? Ade and Lola stepped forward together. Lola held Ade's hand. Ade lifted his head bravely. It's her, Ade said. She killed Mummy. For a moment, no one moved. Then everything happened at once. Tund dropped to his knees, crying. Family members rushed to protect the children, and Amaka tried to run, but guests held her back. She screamed, denied everything, but the voice notes were too clear. Her own voice betrayed her. Before the day ended, the police arrived. Amaka was taken away, still shouting for someone to believe her. But no one did. Tund hugged his children tightly, tears running down his face. I'm so sorry, he whispered. Ade and Lola cried with him, not out of fear this time, but out of relief that Ada's truth had finally been heard. The wedding never happened. The house was quiet again, but this time without deception. Although the family would never be the same, the children had restored something important. Their mother's honor. And the truth that Amaka tried to bury had finally come to light. And that's the end of today's tale. Before you go, tell us in the comments. If you were in the twins' shoes, would you have exposed the truth at the wedding, or handled it differently? What would you have done? If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to Tales Vibe for more weekly tales. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from our story family all around the world. Until next time, keep your heart open, your imagination alive, and remember, laughter and lessons always go hand in hand. See you in the next story.